order Town of Prescott Valley Community Facilities District Board agenda, January 23rd, 2020. Clerk, please call the roll.
Board Member Marty Grossman.
I'm here.
Board Member Lori Hunt.
Here.
Board Member Rick Anderson.
Here.
Board Member Don Packard is absent. Board Member Kendall Schumacher.
Here.
Vice Chair Laura Lee Nye.
Here.
And Chair Kel Palguda.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Move on straight to item 3, consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are considered routine by the Town Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Clerk, please call the roll. I'm sorry, please call the vote.
Board Member Lori Hunt.
Yes.
Chair Kel Palguda.
Yes.
And that passes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Chair.
Move on. Item 4, award of event center lighting replacement project, LED lighting RFP, Finley Toyota Center, Prescott Valley.
Chairman and Board, the item that you have before you is pretty much the last of a number of dollars that we bonded for when we ended up taking over the arena, taking over ownership of the arena and pulling it out of bankruptcy. We ended up making a number of improvements to the arena, including paving the parking lot and a whole list of things that boiled down to either improvements or taking care of deferred maintenance at the arena. The last big ticket item, and that is here before you this evening, is to change out the lighting. The arena is now 11 years old, more or less, and there's an opportunity with new technology to put in LED lighting that does any number of things and very importantly cuts down our annual maintenance cost, moving away from the lighting system that is existing today. Ryan Judy and Katie Pell were involved, and Fatima, with the bid opening, and the results of the bid opening is awarding this contract to the firm that put together the best proposal. And with that, I'd ask that Shane, our manager from Spectra, come up and just briefly describe to you the advantages that that they're looking to gain aside from energy savings.
Welcome, Shane.
Good evening. So, yeah, that was a pretty good explanation. We're essentially on our main arena lighting system, kind of at the end of its shelf life. It's 13 years. A couple of years missed Larry there. But have some failure on the lighting and then also on the computer system that runs that lighting system. So the new project is calling for the newest in technology. Obviously, it's an entertainment style light that would give us a lot of flexibility, a lot of key functionality that we don't have now. Obviously, things have changed quite a bit in the last 15 years on those types of technology, the biggest of which will be much lower utility costs for us, which obviously it's a big building. We run a lot of electricity through on a monthly basis, so this will help out quite a bit. The two distinguishing factors between the vendors are kind of listed in terms of one group is able to do it with one fixture, have all the functionality in each fixture that's all into one fixture. The second group only would need an additional 12 fixtures to enable the same type of functionality. So that was the first part of it. That essentially creates a little bit more in installation, more in utility costs, more in maintenance throughout the term of that particular light. And then the second part is an electrical feature to it, which one group has an embedded driver into each fixture, which allows for a much better functionality of that light. The The Musco lighting option is a remote driver, which throughout the course of the long runs to each bank of lights in the facility would mean we'd have less efficiency with that electrical run. And then just a third piece of that is in terms of the overall cost. The Musco lighting, which was a little bit less, does not have one of the functionalities that we requested in the light, which is a beam tuning function, which allows us to, the best way to describe it is if we have a boxing or MMA event, it would allow us to tune those lights directly onto that centered ring. So the functionality on that one, even though it's a little less, doesn't include that. So the NGU, if you were to compare an apples to apples, would be pretty similar because it doesn't have that functionality. So those were the key things, and both great vendors, but those main three items distinguished.
And Shane, could you touch on something that you shared with me that I had never heard of, about the difference in lighting requirements for basketball versus hockey?
It gets a little bit more technical than probably I can communicate, but essentially what plays better for a hockey team in a facility like this is a whiter light. And currently we have a basketball tenant, and the lighting that's typically required by NBA or G League franchises is a darker light. So within these LED lights, they can, within a fixture, do both. So the functionality that we will get with this system will have both. What we may opt to do to reduce some of the cost is to not enable that without having a hockey team right now. So we can, essentially it plays better in, obviously with a hockey team you've got white ice, and so that reflects a little bit differently. And so the way these lights are now able to function is that temperature within the light creates a little lighter or darker light, which you can apply to and make specific to whatever team you've got playing. So that option will be available. So in future years, if we were able to get a hockey team, we could enable that for, it will be in the system. It's one of those things where it's really just flipping a switch within the software. So, and they also do, it's really in the temperature of the light that it's producing is really how it goes lighter or darker. So I don't know if that was a very good description of it.
It helped. It helped.
I mean, honestly, that's more information on lights than I think is necessary, but
More in this than I could have ever imagined.
go ahead.
I don't really have a question, and it may not be for you, Shane. It may be for our manager. Now that this very important lighting situation is going to be handled, which I totally support, let's take care of the sound. That should be our next highest priority. Just want to go on record.
It is on our list.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I agree with what the Vice Mayor said. I went through this very carefully. I went through the bid as to what the requirements were, and then I went through what each of the two bidders were offering. And I was highly impressed with the NGU because, like you said, they were able to put everything into one fixture, which means, well, especially when you're running wires, you always have outside electrical interference. Yes, I studied electronics a long time ago. Anyway, so you have the outside electronics. But what really impressed me is the fact that that all the lights are dimmable. Yes. And they're able to change, like you said, the different lights for the different features. Plus, they're able to do colors, which when we have some musical shows or other shows in there other than basketball or hockey, it's going to be much easier to do those arrangements. And this was very impressive as to the content of the package and what they're offering and what we're going to get it for. So thank you.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Shane, I did have a question, and Marty just triggered it. Many of the different acts that come in tend to bring sound and light. It sounds like they won't have to be bringing very much spatial lighting in, and so that's a bonus right there.
Generally, for shows, concerts, traveling shows, they will still have their own lighting systems.
They still prefer it, so it's no knock on our new lighting.
Our lighting will essentially be house lighting, so it'll be really used for our tenant teams. You'll really notice a difference. We're coming from the dark ages, literally,
Yes.
for intros for the team.
Okay.
Our lights now, they have a reset, so if they're on and the team wants to do team introductions and go dark to do those introductions and spotlight the players, our lights have to be restruck, and it's about a 10-minute wait to get them to come back, which really doesn't allow for that to happen. So if you see a Suns game, we can't go dark really without a good transition on intros. These will immediately go off and immediately
Great.
come back, so we'll be able to do all those things. And but in terms of traveling shows, almost exclusively they will have their own audio and lighting systems that they'll
Less
use.
stress on our systems. I'm all
It
for
is.
it.
Most times during those shows, we'll go dark with our lights,
Yes.
and then they'll use theirs for the shows.
Just one last question. Okay, following that same topic, would our lighting be able to supplement what they provide? And maybe just give something that they didn't have somewhere else?
It will help in the great majority of events that we have in providing lighting system for them. But when it's show related, it's focused to where the stage is. So they're bringing those lights in specifically for those shows. Now we'll be able to do where it will really help us, and I talked to Larry about this one. It's the beam tuning, which will really help us for event promoters that do boxing, MMA. They won't have to rent additional lights, so it'll save them. It'll make their event more efficient, sell less tickets. So it will help in those events. But for concerts, anything that's really entertainment driven where there's a stage, they're going to be specific on what they bring for lighting. But in general terms, it's going to help us with everything that we do, because it's just going to be a much more efficient and much more technology in the overall application.
So possibly we will be a more desirable venue, and maybe it will bring in events that we haven't attracted before.
Yep, all the upgrades that we're doing, all the things that we're hitting shelf life on, that we're making improvements on, should all be a benefit to helping to push forward with more events, making it a more desirable space, and that certainly all those things help.
That's great to hear. Thank you, Shane.
You bet.
With that being said, all I have, Shane, is just get a hockey team. Just get one and bring it here. All right, do what you got to do. Whoever you got to call, door you got to knock on, just make it happen, So with that being said, if there's no other questions or comments,
I'll make a motion.
thank you.
I'll make a motion to award the contract to NGU Sports Lighting in the amount of $200,000 for the Event Center Lighting Replacement Project by electronic vote.
I'd like to second.
Clerk, please call the vote.
Board Member Hunt?
Yes.
That passes.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks, Shane.
Thank you.
We appreciate you, Shane.
The only public out there right now is you, Mr. Cook. Are you good?
You're passing?
All right. With that being said, can we get a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make an emotion to adjourn the meeting.
Get a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
go ahead.
I just
Go ahead.
did,
That's all
sorry. I know, you got to say it before you touch it. Sorry, Martin.
Board Member Hunt?
Yes.
And we're adjourned, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am.